Welcome everyone. This is Kathleen with TreeSisters Creative Interviews. And today we're going to talk about a collaborative book that was No Ordinary Words about women's wisdom. And we have Kelly Herrick, who is here with us, and it was her inspiration to bring women together to collaborate and put a book together to bring it out into the world and share and support each other in doing that. And Jean Ferguson was partnered in that, and the extreme support. And I'm sure Kelly will share a lot more about that support as we go forward. But I want to tell you just a little bit about both of these wonderful ladies. And I'll start with Kelly. Kelly is an artist, and she is exploring the magical realism of our wild landscapes. Born on the fair, that's such a cool thing, right? And with a roaming soul, she travels the UK from her home in Derbyshire, painting her colorful, joyous art in celebration of the world. Her loose, dynamic style includes big, expressive marks, patterns, symbols, and bold color combinations. Kelly works in water-based mixed media and sometimes includes elements of collage in her work. Her aim is to create an inspiring and optimistic view of the world that helps people connect to nature and their own wild selves in her paintings. And also in your writing, right, Kelly?
Oh yes, and the writing, I forgot the writing. And
Yeah.
everything really.
Yeah, in everything. Yeah, and just bringing people together. It's a great radical goal to have. And then for Jean, very interesting, working in process excellence and lean for 30 years. Lean is a philosophy whose aim is to deliver maximum value to customers. Lean thinking is all about continuous improvement and doing it in a way that involves and respects people. So after 30 years in the private sector, a few years ago, you retired, and then you're dedicating your life to nonprofit organizations. And I'm sure this continuous improvement piece that you're bringing, often as a volunteer and occasionally getting paid. I love that you put that there, which is so sweet. You're passionate and you live in Scotland. And I forgot to mention that Kelly lives in Derbyshire. Well, I think I did say that, didn't I? We had a wonderful little chat about where they live just before the call. So I want to make sure we mentioned it. And let's see. And your best, you can be, where everyone can be their best, and that measures the success and the well-being of its people and how it is protecting the future for its children and grandchildren. Well, first of all, both of your goals and your ambitions I'm so grateful for. They're so deeply rooted in the things that we need right now to change our system and what we're working towards in TreeSisters and in various other places around the planet. So I welcome you to TreeSisters, both of you. I mean, you've been now for a while with us, but it was very exciting to first meet you, Kelly, when you mentioned to me that you were doing that, you had this beautiful, brilliant idea to bring women together for your goal, of course, and your mission, your heart's mission, and hear their voices. And I said, that's kind of what we're all about here at TreeSisters, and particularly with all of our writers and creatives. And so I invited you if you'd like to bring that in and have it as an invitation also with all the TreeSisters. And you're like, yeah, why not? And then you just started to see we sort of took over, and everybody just there's a lot of TreeSisters who are brilliant authors and have so much stories to tell. And it was a beautiful way to really get that done, something that we had been talking about for so long and trying to figure out, how to publish, how individuals can publish and all of that type of thing. And this was just an absolutely remarkable, I can't say enough about it really, but a remarkable project bringing all of the talents and all of the wisdom together of all of the women. And, from editing to publishing, that's a whole long journey. And so I'd love to hear from both of you, and whoever would like to go first, but to talk about what your journey has been like with that.
Oh, sure. Okay, well, I'll take it. Yeah, it has been a journey. I think that's the first thing to acknowledge. It has been a real journey, and I feel like it's been both an external and an internal journey on a lot of aspects, because there's been a lot of practical things that we've done. It took us just under a year, about 11 months from beginning to end to do it, and all of the doing was a journey, but all of the connection and all of the discussion and the discovery and the exploration, that was a real inner journey. So it's absolutely been a journey. And the jumping off point for it all really was when we were in one of the lockdowns. I can't remember which one, there's been a lot. We were in one of the lockdowns over here in the UK, and I was watching my lovely childhood friend speak on Facebook, and saw all these women listening to her talk about her book. And I was kind of just thinking, well, everybody's going to have a story in there somewhere, and I wonder what all these other women who are watching me, I wonder what all their stories are. And then I just kind of went off on a tangent. I thought, we could do this, we could so do this, oh my goodness, because if we do it together, the title of Danielle's book was Remarkably Easy, like, how do we make it easy? So I just started to ask out into my network of women and sisterhood groups, and just said, who would like to write a book? And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I was really happy. I was saying to my husband, I'd be so happy if we get about 10 or 12 people, would be great, like, feels like enough chapters. And then we end up publishing it with 33 women from all around the world, US, Canada, New Zealand, Europe, England. I know technically we're Europe, we're kind of not.
Scotland, don't forget Scotland.
Scotland, yeah, sorry, Britain, UK. I didn't mean England. Oh, that's a touchy subject over here. But yeah.
Yeah, so I was one of the women who jumped on very quickly, and this is about the most scary thing I could imagine. I don't write, I haven't written an essay, I haven't written anything since, other than business emails, for 40 years. But yeah, I'll meet all these cool women, and it'll really stretch me out of my comfort zone, and I could do that. I need that. So from a personal journey of, I really, really struggled to write my chapter. And in the end, my chapter was about my struggle to write my chapter, because Kelly said, why don't you write about why you're finding it impossible, Jean? Like, oh, good idea. Yeah. And then so the joy for me in the book was that I found a way to contribute using the skills that I have, which are creative in a different way, because it's bringing order from chaos. That's my kind of skill. And I'm not saying it was chaotic at all, Kelly, but the bringing order allowed me to bring a wee bit of project management and create a plan. And I was like a sheepdog herding up women who hadn't done task X or task Y. So I might make a good sheepdog.
But I think what was really interesting, Kathleen, was how Jean's there talking about herding people up and tasks and things. And we organised ourselves pretty well, I think. But also I really enjoyed how feminine and sort of intuitive a lot of it was. Although we had a pulse of our weekly email and we had a structure of what we wanted to achieve, there was a lot of conversation, and there were some times where we just kind of let it be what it was going to be, and it felt a lot less. There had to be a linear plan to get us from A to B to C to Z eventually, but there were times, like over last summer, where we all just needed some time, and we all needed a summer, and we all needed time with our families, and we kind of held it, but we held it quite gently, I think, which to me felt like a real female approach to a project.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel that the way that you were holding it, the way that you were organizing it, the structure sometimes feels like this masculine approach, like that we need structure. And so some people try to push the structure away so that it can feel more easy, but you need that structure. You just need it to be able to be a gentle structure. It doesn't have to be a rigid structure. It can be more flexible. And I really think you both accomplished that in, like the perfect blend of both of you, really.
And it's when you're creating anything, and any of the people here who do create perhaps in a more artistic musical performance writing sense, whatever that is for you, there is that process, isn't there, where you're starting to explore. And if you try and process that, or like make it performance based or make it linear, it kind of kills it quite early on. And you have to let that initial exploration take time. And I think for the women who were involved, writing those first drafts was that kind of therapeutic processing time where they just had to let it go. And then after people got to that point, we could start to push a little bit more into sort of organization. But I think there's always that process when you're creating that has to be loose and free to begin with. Otherwise, things can be trampled on, I think.
That's where the medicine is, isn't it? It's in the process. People think that it's in the product when it's done, that's where the gold is. The gold is actually in the process, isn't it? And all of the women have been talking about, what a cathartic experience it was for them as well. And, there's gold in that. And I know I've heard both of you say what an experience it's been for you to hold space for the women to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some calls, just to put it out there, I don't personally know every writer who's been involved. We're in sisterhoods or groups or networks together. So it's not just me and my 32 best mates. This is like some women I don't know yet, and haven't met a lot of people face to face, in person. And yet I've had some of the most deeply connected, trusting, vulnerable conversations, which that to me has been the biggest magic of the whole experience, versus selling what we've sold and launching it to the world. Having those cup of tea conversations with people that you hardly know, but you just trust because you're on the same level and you know that you're all trying to do a good thing for the world. That was incredible, really incredible.
It's amazing how it can be done in long distance, and with Zoom and the help of the internet and things like that. But that's what has really touched me the most since I've been working online, is how close I can feel to people that I've never even met, and you just want to hug them. Like, you can feel yourself being pulled in, but you can also feel that love, and that they're there.
Yeah, well, when we did that launch event a couple of weeks ago, we had a really wonderful launch event in person. There was 30 or 40 people in the room, and then 20 or 30 of you guys all on Zoom on a big screen. And even when some of the writers were reading their chapters on Zoom, people in the room were crying and connecting emotionally. It felt, and the power of the technology to bring us all together was just amazing. So yes, thank you, Zoom. Thank you.
Yeah. Zoom, and thank you, the internet for these reasons. It's a very powerful tool. Barbara Marks Hubbard, I used to work with her. She used to call it our new nervous system. Because now we're able to connect around the world and do that type of thing. But I mean, I was crying after just hearing, on that event, some of the people just reading, like I had read their stories and they touched me. But then when you hear their voices and, the emotions that come through their voices, it just hits you in a like even deeper way. And I even just thinking about it right now, makes me very, I guess what they say, beklemd. I don't know why I use that from time to time, but beklemd from Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I love the whole process, and I love that we got an outcome, but it was the engagement and the connection with the women that was the joyous part. And so many women, the ones where I did the copy editing, so I got really deep into them with their stories. That was just fabulous. And there's, the magic that you get with women, and much, much less so, not none with men, but definitely much less so with women, is that you can go deep really quickly with people you don't know at all or have not met before.
Trust, you build a trust, and
Yeah.
you know, and I can feel that from both of you, and anyone who's watching this right now would probably be, you know, come in and say, share that with you, because you can feel it right now, you know. Yeah, just the way you look, and you know, you're looking up, and you could just feel it in your expression that it's authentic, that you care. And yeah, I get goosebumps. I think that this is the time for us to connect together and to make the changes in the world that we really, really, really need. And this is where it comes from, is being able to connect like this, you know. So,
and is this a good time to kind of explain the premise of the book to people who are watching? Because we haven't actually explained this book project very well yet, maybe. So I don't know.
We could do that, and I can bring up the picture of the book so we can show them. I was going to do that a little bit. I just wanted to mention one thing while we're on process of creating it, is that there's also going to be an audio book, so it kind of ties into what we were saying, because that additional layer that, you know, Bethany Carter you know, is going to be leading, is the voices, you know, and the sound of, you know, the woman reading their own story, and the expressiveness of being able to share your voice and to have that freedom and that safety. You know, that's such an important thing to resonate out, that will travel out and multiply and add ripples. But I wanted to mention that piece because I think it's really thrilling as well. And let me now I'll bring up the picture, and then you could talk about the full premise. Let me open this up. There we go. Look at that beautiful cover. And there was a whole design team that I was kind of part of, but that's a beautiful, ended up to a beautiful cover. So take it away, Kelly.
Sure. So so the whole idea behind the book was to give a voice to women to share their lived wisdom. So all the challenges, all the trials, all the ups and downs that we've all lived through, and to be able to share them in a way that helped support, uplift, and connect with other people who might be reading it, going through that, or have known people who are going through it. And the whole idea behind the title, No Ordinary Words, which is kind of a pun in itself, is because they are extraordinary. And even though we're all considered, in quotation marks, ordinary or normal or typical people, everybody's lives have been extraordinary at some point or another. And it was just celebrating the ordinariness of the extraordinary. You know, the kind of different stories that came out were really phenomenal. We had people talking about grief and bereavement and losing children, or challenges around becoming pregnant. We had people talking about physical chronic health issues or mental health challenges, relationships, how people have found sort of balance and optimism, and other sort of really beneficial ways of going about their daily lives. And it just covers, you know, that no two chapters are the same. Every woman has written one chapter. Actually, we had one lady, Liz, who wrote two. And there's some poetry, and there's even one chapter that's illustrated as well. So it's just a really lovely, eclectic collection of womanhood, I think.
Absolutely. And you have all of the proceeds go to charity.
Absolutely. So the whole point is to be of service. So obviously none of us wanted to try and, you know, make our millions off the book. That wasn't the idea. So we chose two women's charities, of which TreeSisters is one. Yay. So we're planting trees with this book, which is great because obviously it's a paper product. And it's also a digital product. But yeah, the other charity, as well as TreeSisters, is She Has Hope, who run projects around human trafficking and human enslavement of women, particularly in Asia and Africa. So two brilliant charities, and we felt like, as well as being of service by sharing our words with the world in the form of the book, we could also be of practical service by giving cash to people who need to do stuff, you know. So that was the point of it as well.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful balance with both charities, you know, really, you know, helping the women, to empower the women that, you know, are having such negative experiences, and, you know, the young women as well, and with taking care of the planet, you know, simultaneously, because we are connected, we are one, you know, it's one and the same. And I just I love everything about the concept of, you know, there's so many different levels of what difference this is going to make, or is already making, I should say, rippling out, you know, and we'll see how big the forest becomes. I mean, there'll be a no ordinary forest, a no ordinary words forest, you know.
I love
and we can keep track. Yeah, we can keep track of and we will, you know, like we'll end up putting it up in the marketplace, and, you know, things like this. And I mean, a book lasts forever, and you know, yeah. So yeah, Jean,
there's one hidden, or maybe it's not hidden, but there's a value that came from the book that I didn't expect from the beginning, and that's how cathartic and empowering and life-changing it was going to be for some of the authors. And that, just watching it unfold before our eyes, has been a joy. Lovely.
Yeah, you held experience for those women, you know, you held it in such a beautiful way, and you may not have expected it, but you were the perfect, you know, women to do that. Did you write before, except, well, you were saying that you really didn't write in that way, you wrote a lot of emails and things like that, but you ended up writing your story about having a difficult time writing a story, and that for you then opened up many doors, right? New doors for you.
I'm not sure if I'll write anything else or not, but it definitely, I think what was lovely about it was the feedback that I personally got, was how people thought it was my voice and it was authentic. And that was very lovely, because that was like, okay, so I really was telling my story in a way that sounded like me, and that was good.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most difficult things to do as a writer, is to find your voice, you know, to find what's real inside of you, like your truth, and to be vulnerable enough to share it also, and in whatever way, and then you touch people deeper because they can feel it, you know. How about for you, Kelly? What was it for your writing? I know you write blogs and different things.
Yeah, so I've got a few books in me. I've got my own book that I was trying to write at the same time, which I totally underestimated and said, yeah, I'll be able to do that, which I didn't. So that's on the shelf at the moment, but it's coming back. So that's going to be an interesting project off the back of having written this one.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, I really love writing, and it's part of my sort of life and day job as well. So it was more around the vulnerability attached to the writing, because I find it easy to write about things and invent stories, but actually peeling back the layers and showing people my story was a totally different experience. And I think, speaking from my roots and my heritage, you know, I've always been proud of being from the fairground, and also having Romany Gypsy heritage as well. And it's not always been easy. I've had a lot of racism and all sorts of isms thrown at us over the years for that. And I've always been proud of it, but it's only recently in the last few years where it feels that people all around the world are starting to become more empowered to speak about their minority roots. Despite some of the things that we see going on in the world, it still feels like the stories are coming through more. And it was really joyful, but in a weird sort of heavy way sometimes, to kind of go back to, my story is all about belonging and not fitting in, and go back to the roots of that, of kind of being from the fair but then going away to school and not fitting with either culture, and really understanding my own heritage and my own ancestry more from writing it. So that was something I didn't expect to uncover quite as much, and that was really powerful. You know, you start off writing and you don't know actually what you're going to discover along the way, and I think that's where the magic often happens.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you know, everybody who's watching that hasn't read the book yet, I just highly recommend all the stories that are, because they're all pretty much what you two are describing. Each woman went through their own channeling to get to, you know, their medicine, their truth. And, you know, that's what I'm hearing back from a lot of the Tree Sisters. You know, I call everyone Tree Sisters now. As part of the book, you're all Tree Sisters, and it's just amazing. And I can't wait to see the forest grow. I'm gonna show a little bit here about some of the other things that you two do. I was just asking Jean what other type of creative things that she does, and she popped this to me like it was nothing. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful, and it looks so complex and difficult. And this is a blanket, right, for your grandchildren?
Yeah, it's so I have 2 grandchildren, and Rue is going to be 1 next week. And this was a present for him when he was born. It was his like coat of many colors, but it was a blanket for him. And I love the pattern. I love the mathematicalness of it, because that appealed to my maths background. And it was fun to knit because you kept changing color, and then it was more, you know, you've got another bit of fun.
The first time I saw it, I thought that would have made a really beautiful piece of the cover of the book because of all the combination of all the colors. And remember when we were talking about the weaving in the beginning and all of that. Yeah. And then I want to show you the next one here.
Okay, so I started to learn to crochet. I went to a crochet class after knitted for a few years, many years, but thought I wanted to learn to crochet. And we started with granny squares, and I needed to pick something small so that I would finish it. I didn't want a big bag for me, seemed too big and I might never get there. So I decided to make my granddaughter, who's 2.5, a little bag for her. And then on the last night of the class, they said, we're just going to show you how to knit a beanie hat. So she got a beanie hat to go with it. And I was very delighted. I was pleased with those. They came out cute.
Love those colors. They're gorgeous.
I do love those colors too. They're kind of the colors from the book.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. They're my colors. I love
just dawned on me, but I can just imagine, you know, her sweetness with this. And the thing that I really appreciate about it is, you know, the handcrafts that women do. And, you know, from our ancestry, that we have always, you know, had the skills to create the clothing and the special gifts that are handed down. And, you know, I love that piece of it, you know, that's also empowering the, you know, the handcrafts that women do, that you're also bringing into it.
And I'm really looking forward to teaching my granddaughter to knit and crochet in a few years' time. That's a joy.
I bet she's gonna have a blast with you. You're just so full of joy. You always say joy, 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 because you are joy. And then here is Kelly. Kelly, also, you mentioned that you do paint and as well as write.
Yes, yeah.
Explain a little bit about your technique and what calls you here.
Yeah, so I class myself now as a magical realist. So I love to paint from nature and from wild places particularly, but I love to look beyond what's actually there with that I can see with my eye, and maybe what I can see with my third eye, or what I can sense with my spirit. Or I love to go back. I'm always going to old places, like ancient places. I'm going to Stonehenge in a few weeks' time, and this is actually called Flowing Life, and this is St Nectan's Glen waterfall in Cornwall, which is our Celtic west of the UK. It's a really spiritual place. There's loads of ribbons in trees, and there's a goddess quiet space temple, and yoga retreat, and there's all sorts of wonderful things there. And people leave lots of pebbles to their loved ones there as well. So what I try to do is I take the inspiration from the natural elements that are there, but then I also feel, I guess, some sort of the energy of the elements. And this is where I go in with a lot of my scribbles and my marks. And when you see my work in real life, it's actually, you know, like 90 centimeters high, meter so high. There's almost like a harking back to some of the ancient Celtic symbols of spirals and dots and marks, which you see all around the world in really old art forms that are sort of indigenous to countries. And then I also hand print papers and collage those in. So this has got collage in it, but you can't really tell because they're kind of interwoven. So yeah, this is the kind of thing I like to do. It's obviously a representation of a real place, but there's all this kind of crazy, the calligraphy and visual language going on in there that you know, you can see the dots around the edges there and little bits of marks and things that I put in. I might have even put the lunar stack mark in there somewhere from the Celtic calendar. I can't remember because it was August when we went, but so yeah, I kind of do all these flourishes, and that's the magical realism. So it's kind of like, what else is there as a layer? What's wild about this place? What's magical? What's energetic?
Yeah, what's under the surface. I love it. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the description where you go with it, where you're taking it. And I've got another one here.
Yeah, and it's quite intuitive in the process as well. You know, you start out painting, but these marks and things, sometimes they just seem like scribble, and then it just kind of comes out. It all comes out.
Yeah, it's an what do you call it?
Unfiltered.
Unexpressible language of nature, you know, the inexplicable language coming through. And it's just wonderful that you're listening that closely, that you know, and listening and honoring that there's something there that, you know, you may not know what it is, but you're going to trust it.
Yeah.
And put it there. And I had another one of yours, but for some reason it's not lined up on the page right. So I will attach it later to
yeah, well, if anybody wants to see my work, just go to kellyherrick.com, and I've got all my gallery up there. And I'm also really wanting to help people unlock their wild and creative selves as well. So I'm doing a lot more teaching and online things as well, so keep looking out for those, because that's exciting, helping everybody else step up.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You know, it's like coming together and supporting each other on this journey that we're all on. This is like one thread of this magical journey that we're all together on. The more that we can bring together, you know, the more powerful we're going to be. And that's how we're going to shift. That's how we're going to shift the consciousness. And I really believe creativity has a lot to do with it, because it is those languages that carries across the barrier of language. It's the emotional, you know, feelings that we get, and we can share with each other, no matter what part of the world that we're from. And the exciting news is also that we've already got another book in the works because of this template that was created through this book. And Kelly has, you know, given us, like TreeSisters, you know, permission to use this like template and find the things that worked and the things that didn't. And, you know, it's such a, everything worked, I feel, but you know how, like, okay, maybe there was this one thing that we would do differently. But mostly I thought it worked really well, and I'm really happy to do that. And we're gonna, you know, create a book all about earth and trees, and hear what the voices are of nature that are coming through each one of us as well, which is shared in this book too. And I know there's going to be other books for the women's wisdom, because God knows the world is full of women's wisdom that needs to come through. It needs to be heard. And I'm just so appreciative from both of you. And it's been an absolute joy getting to know both of you.
Oh, likewise. It's been so wonderful, hasn't it, to have all these friendships. I kept calling it a literary sisterhood, because it did feel like kind of linked together through words. And words are just emotions. Words are just pictures, really, aren't they, of your emotions inside. So yeah, it's been a joy.
Absolutely. I mean, very few people would be, you know, I mean, the depth of the stories that were shared in this book, you know, it isn't like people come together every day and share those stories with each other. 34 authors, right? Is it 33?
33. Yeah, 33.
I love the power number 33 too.
I know, that is a big master number in numerology, which I hadn't realized. But yeah, and I think that whole idea that it's almost like a gathering within a book, like a circle. And Jennifer did this wonderful honor circle for us at the end of our project,
Yeah,
bring us all
Jennifer
together.
Como. Yeah.
Yeah, which was wonderful. But the book itself feels like that. Like, it's not light chit chat gossipy stuff. It's quite deep stuff, and it's almost as you sit around the fire together in times gone by, where you have that moment, you know, in the cave or wherever you were, that's when you could share those moments. And it does feel like a gathering within pages, you know.
Absolutely. And every time all the authors get together, you know, like for that event that we did last week, and it feels like that. And you know, Claire's poetry is in the book.
Yeah.
And that was really special to be able to have that. And Jennifer Como is one of our board members for TreeSisters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's quite exciting to think about the possibilities, you know, that are available to us if we just take that plunge and, you know, try something that we haven't even tried before, and just say, okay, like, everybody hang on, like this circle, like together we can hang on and go for it. And it really is exciting. And I'm sure that, Jean, you have more to say as well. I love your sweater. I was going to say you also created your sweater. Right.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I love it too. I combined two patterns together because I had a jumper pattern. I thought it's a bit plain though. Oh, look, there's some lovely heart cable. So I got an Excel spreadsheet like you do and blended the two patterns together.
like you do, like you may do that, but not everybody else can do that. Maybe your next project will be that.
I had my 60th birthday in October, and I made a very conscious choice that the last quarter, let's hope it's a quarter, maybe more, of my life, I would focus on only doing things that brought me joy, which is why I use the word joy a lot. Because if it's not bringing me joy, then why on earth am I doing it?
Absolutely, like Marie.
I'm worried it sounds slightly selfish, but it's not, because I can still be doing good and I can still be helping the world. But if it's bringing me joy too, then why wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you just hear what you just said, you know, like that you automatically go to, like, maybe it's selfish, you know, like we're so tuned into thinking that the things that we do to bring us joy could be selfish, you know, and they're not. And we're, you know, that we have to do this. We should be loving ourselves as much as we're loving everyone else and doing for ourselves, right? And that's the hardest thing for all of us to come to, you know, to change, I think, is, you know, that's a big change for us all to, you know, to really have ourselves as sacred too, you know. And
I think joy is more contagious than COVID.
For sure.
I really do. I think joy breeds joy, like creativity breeds creativity. So when you feel joyful, you amplify other people and you amplify kind of the energy for the world. So I think it's absolutely of a high purpose to feel joyful. I really do.
It's a high resonant purpose, and just following the compass of your joy. So let's continue to do that together, and we'll keep checking in and seeing how big the forest is getting. And I really appreciate and love working with you two lovely TreeSisters and authors and creativists and beautiful knitters and crocheting. Like all of that stuff is just so yummy to me in the painting. So thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. It's been lovely to share it here as well. And I just offer, if anyone has any questions or, you know, wants to write their own thing or whatever, you know, obviously you're a creative powerhouse as well, Kathleen, but I'm here if anybody wants to ask any questions, or, you know, I'm really happy to help and share with everyone. So just speak up or come and ask me on social media or whatever your thing is, just, you know, I'm here.
What a wonderful offer. Yes. And so, you know, that's what it is. We're all here to support each other. It's a co-creative, you know, powerhouse. we're all the powerhouse.
If you want help with the spreadsheets, well, that's where you come in.
Yeah, don't come to me for spreadsheets. Go to Jean. Do not come to me for spreadsheets. I'm not a spreadsheet person.
spreadsheets. Gee, I just want to say real quick before we turn off that I asked for some photographs for, that I could show. And Jean says, well, the pictures of my spreadsheets won't be very attractive.
Love that.
I love that too. I love you guys. And thanks everybody for watching, and check it all out. Check out the book. And thank you again for donating to TreeSisters.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.